Hey, it's Dieter and Jake, and we are in Jake's film room here, heading into the 49ers Week 14 game against the Chicago Bears. Where does the time go, Jake? Well, it goes to the injury report, like Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason, making Isaac Guerendo running back number one for this team heading into the final 5 weeks of the season. And Jake, you're going to help us understand what we're about to see, what we could see from Isaac Guerendo moving forward.
That's right, folks. After weeks of discussing the 49ers not using their backup running backs, we had some sort of horrible fate take place in Buffalo where Christian McCaffrey was steps away from a touchdown. Taylor Rapp took him down. His knee just about gave up on him. And instead of a touchdown there, McCaffrey's out for the season. Jordan Mason ended up basically out for the season with a high ankle sprain, and now it's Isaac Guerendo. And guess where we're going to start with Isaac Guerendo, his very first carry as an NFL player. And where does it go,
great,
Dieter?
Jake.
Where does it go? Where does it go? Right into Harrison Phillips in the mouth of the Minnesota Vikings defense. Yeah.
This is not great.
I wanted to start with this. This is not Guerendo's fault. He was
kind of is. You see the purple? Don't go there.
I mean, that's a simplistic way of looking at it. The 49ers, I have this in here, I think, because the 49ers offensive front just gets destroyed. I don't know where he's supposed to go. I guess he could try and slip. It's his first NFL carry. Their front is getting demolished. And that's basically where I have it in here for, is because when you look at any running back in the 49ers scheme, no matter who it is, the 49ers front has to do its job. And if they don't, you get carries like this, and there's quite a few of them for Guerendo and every other running back in the 49ers scheme, because the 49ers offensive line hasn't been that great this year. So now we're going to move over to Seattle. And this is Isaac Guerendo, if I have it correctly. This is him using that speed to get around the corner. So
a lot of Isaac Guerendo in this game.
This is the Raheem Mostert thing. Like, he's wearing number 31. The 49ers compared him to Raheem Mostert. And where you get it is because Raheem Mostert, he had the speed to change angles. And where this should probably be a loss, Guerendo, even though he doesn't ever look like he's actually going that fast, he manages, like, he's got a wall of blue coming at him. He's got enough speed. There's probably a hold there on the right tackle.
He's going 90 degrees to the line of scrimmage. He is riding that thing directly along the line.
He even looks like Raheem Mostert when he runs. He really
does. He's
does.
got that tall. But look at this. He is going backwards.
He's going more than 90 degrees. Yeah.
But it's a hell of a run because he gets to the outside.
That's
the stretch personified, no?
It's exactly what I was going to say. It's the number one thing when you look at Isaac Guerendo, the thing that he brings to the offense that no one else does: stretch run to the outside. He has speed not a single other back in this offense has. And sure, the problems are he doesn't really know how to play the position yet. He's gotten better, but he didn't really have much of a training camp. He missed almost all of training camp, and he was a guy that came in unpolished, guy with a lot of question marks. And he didn't have a training camp. And so you watched him. It looked ugly at times. His pass protection, which we don't have any pass pro clips on here, but we've seen him miss a couple. Yeah. That's probably going to be a problem. This one, this is a nice block from Kyle Juszczyk. This is him going up the middle. I think when you look at Guerendo, one of the main things you see is he is going full speed through the hole just about every time. This is a nice little swipe and cut. Now, I will say he's kind of easy to tackle because it's sort of the thing of he's going so fast that if you get a little bit of a hand on him, you can kind of take him down a little bit more easily than you'd like to. But he also he's so strong and so tough that, like, a weak arm tackle, like if you try and tackle him above the waist and you don't have good form, he can break through it.
This is also the offensive line just moving people on this play. But this jump cut special right here. Bam.
Yep.
Full left to right. That's not something that is easily taught, not something that is easily done. And it's a big chunk play in the run game, something that the 49ers have obviously not seen very much of over the last couple of weeks, even with McCaffrey having a nice burst before his injury.
And that's where they have to found it. I mean, obviously in Buffalo, I'm not going to take much of the tape from Buffalo in either way, just because the snow game, like both offensive lines had no time moving, no hard time moving either
Mhm.
defensive front. It's just in that snow, it's kind of easy to get anything going. This is one against Dallas. I think he goes to the left here. It's not that wild, but look, like right there, that's Eric Kendricks laying out. If that's another 49ers running back, you might have a tackle. He's got enough speed once again just to make it harder. Just to make it harder when you're going to that edge and when you think there's no space left, when there's not much left. Look at
I
this.
mean,
He
this
should,
looks like a loss, right?
it looks like a loss.
That looks like a loss.
That's I believe that's Trent Williams.
Yeah, Trent Williams is rolling on the ground. Now this is one-on-one with, I believe, Bland.
Not Bland,
Diggs?
but Diggs.
Diggs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
well,
he
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 does
made some
he
business
does
decisions.
he does get to the corner and he makes it a positive play, which is the point. It's not that it's the greatest play I've ever seen, but his speed does uh make it harder to tackle him, and it just buys you a few extra yards on the edge.
When we
Rough
talk
for
ab when we talk about the speed, what's the downside to the speed?
a downside to the speed is that I think sometimes he's vulnerable to missing cutback lanes, because he will just go straight in. He'll hit it straight up, whatever way it's called, and he can be vulnerable to like running into his own blockers a little bit. This is the game sealing play against Dallas. Look, that's a great cut, and then he just sits on it. Really impressive.
What he didn't do in
Um,
Seattle, a game that he also
exactly.
won.
Well, what he did do in Seattle, but he shouldn't have done in Seattle,
Oh, that's
where he
correct.
sta
Thank you.
where he sat on it, but he shouldn't have. So this is there's a guy in his face.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's an
Every single
11-man
player
box.
on the field is in the picture here. He cuts left, and that's that speed. I mean,
That's
that's
impressive.
why they drafted him. It's 4.4 speed in a frame that is he's muscled up, he's physical. Like there's a reason they paid for him.
Only one other
I mean,
player in NFL history to run as fast as he has, as heavy as he has, DK Metcalf.
it's pretty impressive. Yeah.
And unlike DK Metcalf, this guy can turn.
And he also doesn't cry every play, as
Okay.
far as we can tell. Listen,
Okay.
I just like to
Let's
make fun
cool
of
with the DK Metcalf slander because he's still
uh,
pretty good.
he's a great player. He just has way more tantrums than anybody his size should possibly have. That's all I'm saying. He's
This,
competitive.
this is
Moving
a
on.
split zone here, 19
Yep.
yards. Hmm.
That
Doesn't
speed
need
is
much. Doesn't need much, does he?
no. That's the thing that I think honestly this is the most exciting development for the 40, not most exciting, most intriguing development for the
Yeah,
49ers in weeks, because they've been pretty this is good for Aaron Banks there, who's had a rough season.
right.
Again, there's a lot of good tape from Dallas. Dallas got mauled. They're not a good team. They're worse than the 49ers, which cannot be said about most teams.
And yet they have the
But
same record as we speak.
hilariously, they have the exact same record. But like when you look at Isaac Guerendo and what you're hopeful for, this is the picture of it, right? You get a little bit of push up front, a lot of push, and he just sees daylight, rips it through, breaks off an arm tackle, and all of a sudden, that's a 19-yarder in the blink of an eye.
That's big boy football right there.
Yeah,
And he was a receiver at Purdue and Louisville a little bit. So you feel comfortable with him catching the ball out of the backfield. We saw a little bit of that in the Seattle game as
which
well.
yeah,
The original Seattle game, the one in Seattle. So there's some upside there. The pass pro has been bad. That is not uncommon for a rookie, but he's obviously got the weight to be a good pass protector if he can get his head on right in that regard. There's a lot of potential with this guy. And I know he was buried on the depth chart third, but that's behind a guy who carried this team for 8 weeks and the guy who should have won MVP of the league last year. Like,
no
no shame
question.
in that game. Much like Jordan Mason. Hey, I was the backup running back at Georgia Tech. Oh, to who? Jameer Gibbs. Fair enough. Sometimes it doesn't work out for you, you know? And yet
Yeah,
here he is. He's going to get his shot. And for anybody out there who is wondering what the Niners are playing for, this. to find out how much juice this guy has and if he can be maybe not even just the number 2, but your number 1 next year should McCaffrey's knee injury last longer than you really think. Like, given that you couldn't trust Christian McCaffrey save for a quarter of the entire season this year, maybe it's a good idea to have another number 1 option that you can come out of the backfield, or that you can just have at training camp, which is something they didn't really have this year with all the injuries, including to Guerendo.
No question. I think 2 things to look for. How do they use Patrick Taylor Jr.? Like, obviously, I think Guerendo is gonna be the number 1 here.
Right.
That's just gonna be the reality, but Patrick Taylor Jr. earlier in the season, they leaned on him a little bit, when they
Especially
had
in
to
the
go to
red zone.
Guerendo. Right, and so I do wonder how much they trust him over Guerendo with pass protection and basic stuff like that, because pass protection, I think, is the number 1 thing that he's gonna be pretty vulnerable at. In terms of
Yep.
a runner, I think you're getting a plus, plus, plus runner, and he's improved as the season has gone on. So watch him in pass protection. Look how they use him in the run game. I do think they had that little swing pass to him that he scored the touchdown in Buffalo.
Mhm.
Like, that's a way we've said it's an easy way to get him involved. He's a track runner. You get a track runner going, a little bit of speed, a little bubble screen, whatever it is. Get him out in space and let him move. I think that'll be really interesting to monitor over these next few weeks.
This is also a guy who, as we saw in that very first clip, it doesn't come naturally to him, right? All of the God-given gifts, those are natural. That you don't have to teach him speed, you don't have to teach him agility, you don't have to teach him how to be the best athlete on the field. In terms of seeing the hole, hitting the hole, you saw a lot of big gaps, really good run blocking there, but finding the little ones and exploding through them and trusting that you can get to the other side, that's only something that can come with reps and conditioning. He's going to get those reps now.
And a little bit more patience at times when something hasn't quite developed, giving it a tick and then hitting it because he has the speed, he has the acceleration. When something isn't quite developed, to wait and wait for the daylight to break. I do think Bobby Turner, as a running backs coach, is coaching him to just like fly, make sure you're flying through the line of scrimmage at full speed because your speed, if you get going, you can't be tackled. I do think a little bit more patience, waiting to see if something can break open when it's initially not there. But the amount of force he hits the hole with, I think is just going to turn more positive plays than not in these last few weeks. We'll see, Dieter.
A good team to get started up against. The Bears giving up nearly 5 yards a clip this season. That's one of the worst marks in the NFL. Pretty much on par with, I don't know, the Dallas Cowboys, the Buffalo Bills, who we had a nice game against. The Saints and the Giants are first and second to last there. The Bears, 4th worst in the NFL. They've also allowed 12 touchdowns and a lot of 20-yard plus runs. This is a good opportunity for Isaac Guerendo to, pardon the pun, hit the ground running as the 49ers starting running back. We'll do a lot more of these film breakdowns as the season progresses, as the young guys get in for the 49ers, trying to help you see what we see on a weekly basis. We'll have one with Ricky Pearsall coming up a little bit later on this week. Stick with us, like us, and subscribe if you are so want. If not, I guess you can find the other button, but please don't use it. Please don't use it. And we'll talk to you
Yeah.
on the other side.